Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. I told you I probably wasn't going to come on the air. I don't have to get Carol to the airport until approximately, um, she says it's an hour and a half drive by her notes. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to try to leave here no later than just after, say, 2:30, 3 o'clock. But I wanted to come on the air and talk to you now about a new Megathrust earthquake fault. For years and years and years, guys, we've been talking about the Cascadia Megathrust earthquake. We've been talking about the Cascadia Megathrust earthquake. Now we have one other megathrust earthquake to talk about. I'm very serious about that, guys. I'm very serious. Let me take down our banner and let's take down our webcam and look at this. Now, just off the coast of Oregon and Washington and Northern California, you see the earthquake fault that runs right along the west coast of the United States? Well, guess what? That's not the only one. It's not the only one. We've been talking about this for quite some time. Let me briefly go out and show you the entire fault line. The entire fault line goes all the way up to Haidaguay. Goes all the way up here to Queen Charlotte Island, which is now called Haidaguay. They're calling Queen Charlotte Island Haidaguay. Just off the coast of Haidaguay, we now have a new megathrust fault zone. Just like the Cascadia megathrust fault zone that we've been talking about, now we have the Haidaguay megathrust fault zone. Let me back out here. Okay? The Cascadia megathrust fault zone runs from down here in Northern California, where you see we have an earthquake here. Not to be alarmed, this is not a major earthquake. This is only a minor 2.0 earthquake. This is down in the southern side of the Cascadia subduction zone, just off the coast of Petrolia, California. It's on the San Andreas Fault, by the way. The San Andreas Fault starts up here and it connects with the Cascadia subduction zone and the Gorda Escarpment Fault. 3 fault zones. Those three fault zones are called the triple junction. But down here on the San Andreas Fault, this is where the 2.0 earthquake is. That's where the 3.0 earthquake is. Sorry about that. Keep getting solicitors calling me. We have a 2.0 earthquake up here in the northern part of the Cascadia subduction zone, right off the coast of Petrolia, California. Just a minor 2.0 earthquake. But going north. Let's go north here. Let me back that out. You can see that the Cascadia subduction zone runs up here along the coast of California, Oregon, and Washington. Okay? Like I said, it runs all the way up here to Haidaguay. You see where the Cascadia subduction zone runs to Haidaguay? And just off the coast west from there, we have the Juan de Fuca Fault. The Juan de Fuca Fault. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake will probably be at between the Juan de Fuca Fault and the Cascadia subduction zone. I want to make this clear. Now we have 2 separate and distinct fault zones, 2 separate and distinct megathrust fault zones. Like I said, we've been talking about this for a long time. I want to make it clear what we have now. Now we have another megathrust earthquake fault zone off the coast of Haidaguay, which is the island here that you see north of Vancouver, off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. Haidaguay belongs to British Columbia. Let's talk about this. I want you to fully understand what we have here. Again, this is a megathrust fault. Let me explain what it is, okay? This is a newly discovered Megathrust fault that is forming off the coast of British Columbia, Canada. It has already produced a major earthquake. The implications of this finding are very severe. New data shows, and it reveals that a region previously misunderstood or understood only as a horizontal fault system. Let me explain that to you as well. Let's bring up our camera back here again so I can explain what the horizontal fault system is. The horizontal fault system is just this, with the fault slipping like this. They previously thought that the Haidaguay fault was just a strike slip horizontal fault, just like this, goes back and forth like this. Horizontal fault. It's not that. It's a vertical fault where the ground will either rise or it will fall. The seabed will either rise or it will fall, just like we've seen in Alaska. And guess what? The Haidaguay fault, Megathrust fault zone, can also affect Alaska. We'll talk about that as well. I want to make sure you understand what we're talking about here. Okay? It's important. This new data that they have found just recently, and in fact, they announced it in July this year, this same month that we're in. This new data reveals that a region previously understood into a vertical compression structure. Like I said, up and down. The ground will either move up or it will move down. The bottom of the ocean bed will either move up or it will move down. Okay? Just like the Cascada subduction zone is going to do. I hope you understand that. This is important information. You're not getting this anywhere else. It's not on YouTube. It's not on TikTok. Bottom of the ocean bed not anywhere. Move up or it will move down. It's not anywhere. You're only going to hear this here. It's important because now we have two megathrust faults that put this area in peril. These are the exact kinds of faults known for producing devastating earthquakes and massive tsunamis. Does everybody understand what we're talking about here? This is important. I believe this is very important. You need to understand it. I'm trying to explain it to you. So hang tough here in here with me for a few minutes, guys. Hang tough. Also, please give us a thumbs up if you enjoy what we're talking about and giving you this information so you can prepare. Yes, we need to prepare. All of us, up and down the entire West Coast of North America, including Alaska. Okay? But again, these kinds of megathrust faults are known for producing devastating, deadly earthquakes and massive tsunamis. This quake system off the coast of Haidaguay has now been imaged, it's been measured, and it is confirmed to be beneath the Pacific Ocean. It's been measured, imaged, and confirmed to be beneath the Pacific Ocean. This development redefines seismic risk for the entire Pacific Northwest. For decades, hazard models focused on the Cascada subduction zone further south. We've talked for 6 years about it, 6.5 years. Now, scientists have documented a second megathrust system actively forming offshore of Haidaguay. It is deeper and is more complex. And it's more dangerous. It's more dangerous than previously recognized. This newly identified Haidaguay megathrust fault has the capacity to rupture in events comparable to the most powerful earthquakes in recorded history. Let me repeat that. Let that sink in. This newly identified Haidaguay Megathrust earthquake fault has the capacity to rupture in events comparable to the most powerful earthquakes in recorded history. Let that sink in. Researchers used nearly 3,300 kilometers of high-resolution seismic imaging, 3,300 kilometers of high-resolution seismic imaging to map the fault in unprecedented detail. The data was collected aboard the Marcus G. Langseth, a research vessel operated by Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory. During the 2021 expedition, scientists deployed a 15-kilometer hydrophone, a 15-kilometer hydrophone array, and they conducted active source seismic imaging across the region. The final results were not published until this month, July 2025. What they uncovered confirms that a major tectonic transition is underway. A major tectonic transition is underway. Think about it. The Queen Charlotte Fault, long considered to be a strike-slip fault, like I explained, just like this, a strike-slip fault, just like the San Andreas Fault. But the Queen Charlotte Haidaguay Fault is no longer behaving as expected. The data shows clear evidence of vertical compression. It shows clear evidence of vertical compression. How about that? Compression, meaning the ocean bottom will be forced down or it will be forced up. Vertical compression. That's what they're talking about. Let me take this USGS map down for a moment, and I'll put it up another picture here. I want you to see this. This is the Haidaguay Megathrust earthquake fault. Okay? That's what we're talking about. The Pacific Plate, the Pacific Ocean where the Pacific Plate is being forced beneath the North American plate. The Pacific Plate is being forced beneath the North American plate, and it's actually taken a deep dive towards the center of the Earth. This new thrust fault has been identified cutting underneath the seafloor. It's been identified cutting underneath the seafloor, running parallel to the Queen Charlotte system. This thrust has already ruptured. In 2012, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake occurred in this exact zone. 2012, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake occurred in this exact zone. At the time, the mechanism was not fully understood. It is now. Until now, the Queen Charlotte Fault was believed to be a horizontal strike-slip system, just like the San Andreas Fault, a strike-slip system. This model at Haidaguay no longer fits. The imaging clearly shows vertical plate motion. Vertical plate motion. The Pacific Plate is being pushed underneath the North American plate, forming a new subduction zone. This zone is active. It is capable of generating a tsunami-producing earthquake. It is capable of generating a tsunami-producing earthquake, and it lies just offshore from coastal communities of Haidaguay. Subduction zones are the most dangerous earthquake structures on Earth. They are responsible for the largest and most destructive seismic events ever recorded. This is no longer theoretical. It's already been demonstrated. It has already demonstrated the ability to rupture violently in regions where such seismic zones form. Energy builds up slightly or silently over years or decades. Then it releases in a matter of minutes. All that energy is released in a matter of minutes. When that release happens offshore, the sea is displaced. The sea is displaced. The tsunamis follow that. Does everybody understand why the theory of sea displacement happens? I want to make sure you know. This is important to understand. Sea displacement. When the fault ruptures, when a vertical fault ruptures, and that's what this is, the sea floor drops. The sea floor drops like this. Then the water that was once on shore goes rushing back out to sea like this to fill that void where the earth dropped. When it fills the void, it all of a sudden rolls back into shore in the form of a tsunami. That's what's going on. Okay? When that release happens offshore, the sea is displaced. Tsunamis follow. The fault runs just offshore from populated areas of Haidaguay. It is very deep, building pressure, and it is no longer dormant. In 2012, like I said, it produced a 7.8 magnitude earthquake, one of the largest earthquakes in Canadian history. That event sent a tsunami across the Pacific. The rupture pattern now matches the structure revealed in the imaging. This is not a future risk. This is presently an existing risk, an event that sent a tsunami across the Pacific. Just like we're going to see when the Cascadia Megathrust earthquake hits down over off the shore of Seattle, Tacoma, Washington. The same kind of factor exists. The rupture pattern now matches that structure revealed in the imaging. This is not a future risk, it is an existing one. There's now evidence that the Pacific Northwest is being squeezed between two different megathrust systems, one from the north at Haidaguay and one from the south at the Cascadia subduction zone. Two different megathrust systems squeezing on the Pacific plate. Cascadia remains a major hazard to the south, but now the northern margin at Haidaguay is showing signs of similar compression, vertical compression and subduction, the Pacific plate going underneath the North American continent, the North American plate. Between them, the North American continent is being crushed. The Pacific plate subduction is causing the North American fault, or excuse me, not the fault, but the North American plate to be moved in an upwards direction. As that Pacific plate goes underneath and towards a deep dive underneath the North American plate, it causes mountain building. We've talked about this. Okay? The northern margin is showing signs of similar compression and subduction. Between them, the North American continent is being crushed. This risk zone extends from California, Northern California coast, all the way to the Gulf of Alaska. This risk zone, not just a tsunami, but earthquake-wise. The risk zone extends from Northern California all the way to the Gulf of Alaska, and it is expanding. The newly mapped fault extends over 108 kilometers, 112 miles long, and is active at depths between 15 kilometers, 9.3 miles, and 35 kilometers, 22 miles deep below the ocean floor. That's deep enough to store massive amounts of stress, and is also close enough to coastal regions that any rupture could send shaking and waves into towns and cities with little warning. These are no abstract concerns. The 2012 event, the 7.8 earthquake in 2012, confirmed that the Haidaguay thrust is real and it moves. The discovery forces a rethinking of seismic models across the region. The Queen Charlotte Fault system has long been characterized as a simple strike-slip boundary, just like I explained the San Andreas Fault was, a strike-slip boundary. Now it is evolving into a subduction zone interface, where the Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the North American Plate like this. This is not common. This is not common. Subduction zones are usually ancient. This one is forming now. This gives researchers a rare chance to study the birth of a megathrust. But it is also creating uncertainty. Systems in transition are hard to predict. Scientists have not even been able to predict earthquakes at all, let alone a Cascadia earthquake. They haven't done it. We believe it's going to happen. The Cascadia earthquake is going to happen sometime within the next 5 years. But now they don't know how long it is going to be before the Haidaguay thrust fault happens again. As I said, we had a 7.8 earthquake off the coast of Haidaguay in 2012. That was a form of stress relief. 7.8 major earthquake. But what is known as the Haidaguay thrust is already locked in place. The fault is locked in place. Locked faults do not slip gradually. They stay stuck, storing energy until the rock fails catastrophically. This is what creates long intervals between major events, and that is what makes them so devastating when they finally occur. If and when this fault ruptures again, the shaking will be severe, but the tsunami could be worse. Modeling based on similar faults indicate wave heights could exceed 10 meters, 30 feet high, at nearby shores. That is more than enough to inundate low-lying areas. A 30-foot wall of water inundating low-lying areas. And because the fault lies close to land, warning times will be very minimal. Warning times will be very minimal. There may be only minutes between the earthquake and the arrival of water. The Haidaguay region is sparsely populated. Let me just pause here. The scientists are saying there are only going to be minutes between the Haidaguay Megathrust earthquake and the arrival of water. They're saying right now that the Cascadia Megathrust earthquake hits and it'll be 15 to 20 minutes after the earthquake hits. There are also going to be aftershocks as well. But 15 to 20 minutes later after the Cascadia hits, then you're going to start seeing tsunamis. Long, tall, deep tsunamis. The Haidaguay tsunami is going to be at least 30 feet high, and it will happen within minutes after the earthquake, not 20 to 30, not 15 to 20, as the Cascadia is. The Haidaguay Peninsula, or not even peninsula, the Haidaguay Island. The region is sparsely populated, but it is not isolated. The Alaska Panhandle north of British Columbia and parts of southeast Alaska all fall within the potential tsunami impact zone. The Alaska Panhandle, northern British Columbia, and parts of southeast Alaska all fall within the potential tsunami impact zone. Ports, roads, and energy infrastructure sit along the coast. These are not hardened against a major offshore rupture. They're not hardened, but neither are the west coast of Vancouver, Canada, or the United States. They are not hardened infrastructure. That's why this earthquake in the United States will be so deadly. It's going to be even more deadly at Haidaguay. Most of these infrastructure were not built with megathrust quakes in mind. The grid, businesses, government buildings, homes, gas lines, water mains, gas lines, guess what? They're not hardened to withstand megathrust earthquakes. So just like we're going to see at Cascadia, we're going to see devastation up at Haidaguay and possibly even Vancouver Island and on Southeast Alaska. This study provides a rare glimpse into a developing plate boundary. It is rare for geophysicists to capture a system in transition like this, but the practical implications are more urgent. Current hazard maps may underestimate the risk in this area, in this region. Local and national emergency agencies will need to reassess coastal vulnerabilities and tsunami planning zones that they haven't even done yet. Researchers involved in the project emphasize that this is not an isolated phenomenon. The Queen Charlotte IE Haidaguay fault is not the only structure showing signs of change. The entire boundary between the Pacific and North American plates is shifting. It's becoming more compressional. That means the stress environment is intensifying and more faults may activate. We talked about this before. Just yesterday, we talked about the San Andreas fault when it goes. It's going to activate nearby faults. The Haidaguay fault is going to do the same thing, and the Cascadia fault zone is going to do the same thing. It's going to activate other faults. One major concern is the possibility of linked ruptures. Just like we said, the Cascadia subduction zone, it could trigger the San Andreas fault. All the way down to northern Mexico, they may feel the remnants of the Cascadia subduction, the remnants of the Megathrust 9.0, 10.0 magnitude earthquake. That's what this is going to be at the Haidaguay fault. In Cascadia, historical evidence shows that the entire fault may rupture in one enormous event. If the Haidaguay thrust connects to neighboring faults, which it does, the same thing could happen. The Haidaguay could cause the Cascadia to rupture. The Cascadia could cause the Haidaguay to rupture. And if the Haidaguay ruptures, the Cascadia ruptures, and then that energy is going to be transferred down the San Andreas fault. A combined rupture involving strike slip and thrust segments could produce a complex large-scale disaster. The strike slip and thrust segments could produce a complex large-scale mega disaster. Previous earthquake hazard models relied on limited imaging. That is no longer the case. Not at Haidaguay, not along the Cascadia fault. They've been mapping those faults for a long time. The data from this study provides a high-resolution cross-section of the fault zones. It shows the geometry, the depth, and behavior of the structure. It matches the 2012 earthquake precisely. That kind of match is rare in earthquake science. What it means is that the model is credible. The next step is to incorporate this structure into broader hazard assessments. That means reevaluating building codes. We've been talking about this for a long time. Developing a tsunami alert system, and also evacuation procedures. It also means informing the public. That's what we're doing here. We're talking about, we are informing the public about this. Does everybody understand what we're talking about? Many residents of coastal British Columbia, Canada, have never heard of this fault. They are unaware of the land beneath them is being forced downward and under another plate. The land beneath them is being forced downward and underneath the North American plate. This process is slow. It unfolds over lifetimes. It's been unfolding for a long time, and now they've mapped it. They know what's going to happen. The time element is when, and we don't know that. The 2012 7.8 earthquake gave only seconds of warning. The next one could be larger, and there is no guarantee that it will strike in the same direction. A deeper rupture could send shock waves further inland. A shallow rupture could make the tsunami worse. As the earthquake rises to be shallow, it'll make the tsunami worse, a larger tsunami. We already talked about a possible 30-foot wave. It could be larger than that. The clock is already ticking. The clock has been ticking on Cascadia, and this one's going to be just as bad. The Haidaguay and the Cascadia faults are locked, and the compression is building, and it's happening right now. And the imaging confirms that it is real. For those living along the Haidaguay coast, Prince Rupert, or even further south, this is not just a scientific discovery, it's a wake-up call. Don Patoga's in the chat. He's one of my best friends and mod here. He says, will the Salt Lake be on refill? Possibly. Michael Kearney just gave away 10 EMA memberships to people here in the chat. Kay Parker Fraser, Super Dave 44, Double D, Darian Ryan, Laura Lee, Dave's wife, Lindsay, Wendy Cakes, Jen Miller, Joko KS Copwatch, Adam Bernas, and Michael Kearney. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. You guys can thank Michael Kearney for these memberships. We definitely appreciate it. We had what I wanted to call a membership meeting earlier this week. As it turns out, YouTube didn't want to make it a members-only meeting. I'm going to make sure it's a members-only meeting this next week. But again, getting back to this. All this energy along the Haidaguay coast is real, just as it is real down in the Cascadia subduction zone. And the subduction zones are locked in place. The energy is there. This is not just a new scientific discovery, it is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call. We may not have further notice. Preparedness will now depend on how fast agencies and people move to adapt. Depends on how fast agencies and people need to adapt. They need to move now. You need to move now. You need to get your emergency preparedness plans in place. You need to make sure you're making and evaluating your emergency kits. We've talked about emergency preparedness kits here and emergency plans here on this channel. Whenever you see preparedness in the title of the program, you can go there and learn about emergency kits and preparedness planning. It's in the title of the program. Now, folks, this is a wake-up call. Whether you are at Haidaguay, down on Vancouver Island, down over in Washington, Oregon, or Northern California, this is going to be a wake-up call. You need to get busy. You need to get busy now. Infrastructure built for magnitude 6 or 7 events will not withstand a megathrust rupture. Infrastructure built for magnitude 6 or even 7 magnitude events will not withstand a megathrust rupture. Tsunami response plans must be rewritten with this new fault in mind. And Remember, we've done regional drills up in the Cascadia area. We did our first one in 2014 in Spokane, Washington. Yes, the Cascadia first drill was over in Spokane, Washington. I was there. Regional drills will need to assume less warning time than previously planned. The people over on Haidaguay and up in northern British Columbia, Canada, need to get busy. You guys need to get busy. Vancouver Island residents, the same thing applies. You need to get busy. Write your preparedness plan and make sure your emergency preparedness kits are ready. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have water. Make sure you have clothing and even coats and jackets, sweaters for very cold time periods. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you have sturdy shoes as well. Make sure you have everything, all your equipment ready. I know that's a big deal, but you need to do it now, right now. Again, regional drills will need to assume less warning time than previously planned. This is not just a possibility. This is going to happen. As I said before, the 2012 quake already proved this fault can rupture. It will happen again. The next question is only when and how much it will move next time. When will it happen and how much will it move next time? I'm telling you, folks, it's going to happen. We know for a fact. Now, folks, I will not be back at the normal time at 4 o'clock. I may be coming back on the air late this evening to talk more about earthquake preparedness on the Cascadia subduction zone. We normally do that on Thursdays. I'm going to possibly come back on the air later this evening once I get Carol to the airport and have her business taken care of. Michael Kearney says South Florida sweltering as usual, Viva Boynton Beach. Not just Florida, Georgia, South and North Carolina, even Virginia, all the way north to Maine are under a heat dome. Between now and Saturday or Sunday, we are going to see 100-degree plus events happening all 3 days. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 100 degrees. And the potential for also humidity. Possibly Saturday or Sunday, we could get heavy rain coming off the Atlantic Ocean. You need to get ready. Anyway, guys, I got to go. I hope you have a good day and a better tomorrow. We will talk more about this. I guarantee it. We will be talking more about this. Get ready. Get ready, guys. If you want to help donate to our program, you see our PayPal locations going across the bottom of your screen. You'll also see our email address, rltnspdema at gmail.com. You're also seeing our mailing address in case you want to send us a letter or a card with the donation in it. You can send it to 504 Bethel Road, Box 401, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. It's been quite a while since we've had a package, a letter, or a card. We both enjoy seeing those. So please, folks, if you want to help support this program, please do that. We'd appreciate it a lot. May God bless you. May God be with you every day, this day and always. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.